First off, thank you for joining us this morning. I know there is a high level of concern about the recent arsons. I want to assure the impacted communities, both residents and builders, that these arsons are a priority for our investigative teams. I'm not able to provide many details today as the investigation is ongoing, but I can share that the EPS is investigating at least 6 fires believed to be deliberately set at new home construction sites between October 18th and November 2nd, primarily in the King Edward Park and Belgravia areas, with the most recent occurring in Glenora on Sunday. It has not been confirmed whether these fires are all connected, though that is certainly something investigators are looking at, given the similarities and proximity. With respect to the motivation behind the fires, that too remains under investigation, and it would be pure speculation to come to any conclusions on that front at this time. As we continue our investigation, we ask community remain vigilant and report any suspicious activity to police, especially around construction sites. We're also asking residents with home security cameras to check their footage for any suspicious activity, particularly between the hours of 10 p.m. and 1 a.m. on the nights of the fires. And I'll read them out for everyone's awareness. So October 18th, October 21st, October 26th, October 29th, and 2 on November 2nd. Again, if you know anything or you see anything, report it to police immediately by calling 423-4567 or anonymously through Crime Stoppers. Obviously, if it's urgent, please call 911. Lastly, I want to ensure residents that we are working closely with Edmonton Fire, the impacted home builders, and have increased proactive patrols in the affected neighborhoods. We will continue to monitor the situation closely. The EPS will continue to provide updates as they become available. Thank you.
Well, good morning. I'm David Lazenby, Fire Chief for Edmonton Fire and Rescue Services. And as the Deputy Chief mentioned, we've had a number of concerning fires in the last couple of months. In total, 8 since September. And we acknowledge the impact of these fires is wide-reaching. It hurts the families expecting these homes, the businesses building them, and the residents living nearby. We see the damage and we hear the worry. But let me be very clear, we're all treating this with the absolute highest priority. The dangers these fires pose to residents and our fire crews is unacceptable. I can assure you we're dedicating every resource necessary to these investigations. We're working shoulder to shoulder with our colleagues and partners in Edmonton Police Services in order to track down and stop this activity. Know that your city's services are strong and coordinated. This is now a time for partnership. We need to tap into the strength and spirit of this city. The most powerful resource we have is the vigilance of Edmontonians, looking out for each other. If you see something suspicious, report it immediately. Trust your instincts. Let us be the judge. That simple call is the most important action you can take to keep your community safe and crews. We'll continue to be out there every hour, every day, ready to respond. We're here for you and we're counting on you to be looking out for one another. Thank you.
Good morning. Excuse me. I want to start by extending my deepest sympathies to all of those who have been impacted. We know it's something that's been very hard on a number of communities and those directly impacted by the fires. We know it's a frightening time for the community, and I want you to know that I stand by the Edmonton Police Service and Edmonton Fire Rescue Fire Services and thank them all for their hard work. We all want to live in safe, healthy neighborhoods. But destroying people's homes, impacting people's livelihoods, and holding neighborhoods in fear is not acceptable. These are people's homes. It's close to the holiday season. People's lives have been turned upside down, and we want people to feel safe in our city. As we've heard already today, I want to encourage Edmontonians to be vigilant and to report any suspicious activity as soon as they see it. Again, I want to thank EPS and Edmonton Fire Rescue for their work treating this with the level of severity that it is. and know that we are going to be supporting both services as much as possible in whatever way possible. I had a chance yesterday to go by 2 of the sites and to see the real impact. And like I say, this is why it's something we need to give our full support to Edmonton Fire Rescue and EPS. So thank you very much.
I'm just going to invite the 3 speakers to join me at the front here. And in the interest of time, we're going to limit questions to just questions regarding the fires. So please come up and just direct your questions to one of the speakers, please.
My name is Sarah Comedina. I'm with Local News. My questions for me?
Yeah.
Or the fire chief.
Okay.
So, is there any way to tell at this moment if a particular group is being targeted, like we've seen in previous years when arsons were targeting South Asian home builders?
So good. Thanks for the question. So at this time, I wouldn't say that that is the case. It's early in the investigation, so our investigators are out there looking at all things. But at this time here, we don't see any connection to that.
And is there any concerns when we are looking at, we were just in court last week for a Project Gaslight, the middle manager, he was sentenced to 7 years for his role in these arsons.
Mm-hmm.
Are there concerns with the length of sentences that were given to people who were involved in a connected series of arsons, or is that something?
Yeah, so I don't have an answer for that quite right. I'd have to kind of look. I mean, everything's very unique, right? There's a lot of different circumstances that surround all the charges that we lay. So, I mean, that particular one, I mean, we'd have to look into each specific one. And of course, when and if we identify who's responsible or a group that is responsible for these events, that'll be something that we'll take into account when we lay the charges and bring them before the courts.
Eric Bowling, Edmonton Journal. I'm wondering if there's any concerns about copycats sprouting up.
Not at this time, but I think it's something that our investigators are very aware of, right? And so we're looking at all things and working closely with our partners with Edmonton Fire when these events come in to make sure that we're collecting the evidence that's required and determining if this is part of what we're looking at in totality or if this is a one-off. So.
Do the police have any suspects at this point?
It's too early right now to sort of determine that. Like I said, we've have a lot of resources behind it, and we're looking at all things right now.
Some questions for the chief here. Has the weather, the unique weather we've had this month, been impacting the response at all?
No.
Is there any consistency in how you're finding in how the fires are being started at these sites?
Most of the fires are still under investigation, so it's too early to kind of speculate as to the cause.
Okay. What kind of penalties could the suspects face if and when they're apprehended?
Again, good question. Really comes down to who the person is and what their previous history was criminally and otherwise. But something that we would put together in whatever the brief would be for the courts to determine.
What kind of similarities are you looking for when there is a series of fires? I know these ones are still under investigation, but what do you kind of look at when you're trying to link a rash of fires?
I would say in the first instance, each fire is viewed as a unique and separate incident, and our fire investigators, and in collaboration with the police arson investigators, have a methodology or a process to follow in terms of identifying the origin and cause, and that process is applied each and every time, and then from there you consider are there connection or similarities between each of those separate incidents. I don't know if there's anything.
Yeah. So the other thing, the other point that's important to that, and that's when we look for, like, when we're out canvassing neighborhoods and the residents, what people see, right? So these doorbell cams and video that's out there, I think, is extremely important for us to help move the investigations forward. Obviously, I said we work with our fire partners when these things happen and look to see where we can find maybe what the cause was. But we know that the doorbell cams and the information we get from our residents and the communities who are, as the mayor said, like, needing to be vigilant, will give us probably more than we would want and help us move this along much quicker if we and when we have that information.
How dangerous are these fires to the greater community?
I think it depends on where the development is, what the extent of the fire growth is at the point of identification that there is a fire. Obviously if it's in its incipient stages, we can intervene much sooner, have it contained. If it's taken some time for people to notice that there's a fire, the fire has grown, it could, extend outside of that building, and then it's, what is the proximity to neighbouring properties.
And because specific areas are being targeted, these people in these communities, I mean, are they living in fear? Like when you're talking to them, like how scared are people right now?
I think, it's fair to say we've had feedback through councillors and in direct conversations that, people living in communities where infill development is occurring, it's grabbing their attention, and I would say rightly so. And, that's why we're stressing the need for vigilance and people to look out for one another, in the hope that we can address this behaviour as soon as possible.
Jackie with the Journal. I'm sorry, Jackie with the Journal. I understand that there is coding in place for the city for places that are under construction regarding fencing and things like that, and I'm wondering if any of these, if all of these 6 sites were they were fenced properly, and if they had been inspected for security.
Is that something, Travis, you want to take on?
Yeah.
This is Travis Pawlyk, the branch manager for urban planning and economy.
Hi there. So all of the construction with Edmonton follows the Alberta Building Code, as well as the rules set out through the zoning bylaw. All of the properties and all the properties under construction in Edmonton follow the approvals process as well as an inspection process. In terms of these exact sites, it is unknown, other than generally all sites need to be fenced and secure when there is nobody on site under construction.
Other cities have taken sterner measures to address arsons and break-ins and things like that by demanding higher fencing of buildings under construction. Is that something that the city might consider?
Well, I would say, again, I want to make sure that our team from Edmonton Fire and Edmonton Police Service can complete their investigations to determine what's happening. And then from there, if there's a separate city response needed, that would be the time for us to have that discussion. There's always opportunities for us to review our rules, but let's make sure we get the arson investigation complete and then go from there.
Question of police, Laura Boothby, City News. Is this, are there any, is there any evidence of an extortion attached to this one, like with the Bishonoy gang ones last year? Is there any kind of evidence we have so far of someone threatening to burn down?
Yeah, I think I answered that a little bit earlier. Yeah, at this point here, we're not seeing any linkages to that, but again, it's still early, so we're looking at all angles and all things, but it doesn't appear to be that case in this particular situation.
And do you know if it's one person or one group?
I don't have that information right now.
Is there anything that the fire department or police are doing differently in investigating this, because it might be a series versus a one-off?
Well, I can jump to the chief after this, but I think we just continue to work together, right, and communicate when these things are coming in, and making sure that we're allowing fire to do what they need to do when they first go in there to deal with tackling the fire, and then collecting the evidence, and then our arson investigators working alongside them to collect what evidence we would need to bring this before the courts. Anything to add to that, Chief?
Yeah, no, all I would say is I've worked on a number of fire services, different provinces, different countries, and I mean this when I say it, the level of collaboration between Edmonton Fire Rescue and Edmonton Police Service is beyond anything I've ever seen before, genuinely. And, the speed at which we engage one another when necessary is incredibly timely, and that was the case in these instances, and we've been working, very, very in lockstep over the last couple of weeks to try and identify the cause. Yeah, obviously, ultimately, the insurance companies are the ones who'll have that final number. We've estimated in the region of $8 million for the 8 fires since September.
Just to clarify, with the 8 fires, are you treating these 6 fires potentially linked or kind of investigating all 8?
No, it was just when we pulled the statistics ready for this conversation, we went back to the start of September to see the type of fires. Obviously, the activity in the last couple of weeks has focused on the 6, but in total, our stats identified 8 of this type of development.
Were all those 8 started in the basement?
It's too early to say at this stage. You know, they're still under investigation, so I wouldn't want to speculate.
But Chief, of those 8 that you referred to, how many were multiplexes?
I'd have to get back to you on that. I don't have the stat at this time.
Can you describe how maybe the fire behavior is slightly different for a multiplex versus a single-family home in a dense neighborhood?
I would say the variables are too great to speculate on and just give you one generic answer as to how the fire might grow. It depends on kind of the stage of construction. It depends on how tightly kind of weatherproofed kind of the building is, with the windows and doors in place, is the free flow of air, etc., etc. So I don't know that it would be helpful to provide an answer like that.
How many arsons are there in Edmonton in the course of a year? And how many houses or structures actually burn down or burn to the ground?
I can get those statistics for you. We'll get back to you. Yep. We've got Kyle from Edmonton Fire at the back there, if you can connect with him.
Can you share the dates of the September fires as well?
Yes, I have those here, so at the end I'll give you that information.
Is there anything that you're doing to support people who have an infill right now that hasn't been burned down? Or is there anything that people who are building one or live next to one should do to protect themselves? So anything they should do or that you are doing?
Yes, so all the representatives here will be meeting with Build Edmonton tomorrow, who represent many of the developers in the city, and we're having those conversations about how people can do things as safely and appropriate as possible.
Were the September fires started between 10 in the evening and 2 in the morning?
I could get that information for you.
Has it been confirmed all 8 of these fires are arson, or is that being investigated?
No, the vast majority is still under investigation. Yeah.
These, all these sites are fenced off. Is there any consistency in how whoever's getting in is getting through the fences? Like, are they cutting them? Are they climbing over them?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't have that information to hand. I'm not sure.
What makes it seem like, if it's not confirmed right now, that they are all arson? What makes it seem like they could be, or linking it to something?
Yeah, no, they are of concern. They are suspicious fires, but as you can imagine, there is an appropriate process to follow before you can determine the cause. You have to be able to, put your hand on a Bible in a court setting and say, that was the cause of the fire. So there's a level of diligence and rigour before we can say, this was the cause of the fire.
Is there anything that is raising a red flag that it is arson? Like, is there anything that you can give us that, just...
I don't think here's the place or the forum for kind of, speculation at this stage. I mean, Chief, I don't know if there's anything you want to add there. Just when we have the information, we'll provide it to you. Obviously, the fact that we've convened this meeting, the fires are a cause of concern, and we want to raise it so that people are diligent and they are looking out for one another. And if there is evidence available, be it by door cameras or other means, we want that so we can address this situation. We're all in this together.
So what are people supposed to be looking out for?
Just suspicious behaviour. People, vehicles that are maybe not common to the area, things of that nature, anything that just looks untoward. I don't know if there's anything.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. I think it's just exactly that, right? I mean, you know your neighborhoods. You typically know who live in your neighborhood and who your residents are. So if there is, being respectful that some of these areas are very, nice to walk through, right? So, but in between 10 and 1 night and 1 in the morning would be of concern. So I just want to clarify one thing. So when I talk about using our arson investigator, so not to speculate, I know these are all under investigation, but we always send out the best of what we have to get ahead of these, right? So we have a group of detectives who are trained to deal with these type of situations and these fires, and so they are called arson detectives. And so, again, like the chief said, everything is still under investigation, so there are still some things that may change in some of what our determination is, but that is a team that we send out because we want the best detectives in this space working with our partners to make sure that we collect the evidence appropriately.
Is it possible to increase patrols in these areas, or are these infill just too much of it?
No, of course it is, right? And of course it's something we discuss as an organization. We have been for the last number of days, and yet we do have increased patrols in these areas, and we have some teams that are out there making sure that we're paying attention to it, working with the builders, as we said, working with the communities to make sure that people are aware and that we're available in these areas when needed.
And I understand that everything's still under investigation. It was clearly important enough to have a
Correct.
concern conquest.
Correct.
I'm just wondering if what is making these 8 fires seem more serious than other fires?
I think a lot of it just comes down to the proximity, right, and the timings of it. We're starting to see some trends in what's going on, so that would lead us to believe that, you know, there is someone or some group or something that is responsible for this. And so obviously when we see these things happening, I think as both the chief and the mayor said, right, this is a concern for the community. Our responsibility is to make sure that we protect the community, and, you know, fire plays a role, the city plays a role, and EPS plays a role in making sure. So our ability to work together and make sure that we get in front of media and our community to tell them that we're taking this seriously and we have the right people in the right spaces to investigate this, but we just need their support and help to help maybe get us just that one little piece of evidence that's going to help us sort of identify the individual or individuals who are responsible.
I understand police have set up some surveillance around some infill, and that the city has private security patrolling around some of the sites. How widespread is this around, like, infills in Edmonton?
Like I mean, I think I heard on the news this morning that some of the builders have their own security and some other things. I don't have anything about police surveillance.
I saw one that said police on it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, and there might be just the proactive patrols that are in the area, right? So I don't know if that's necessarily surveillance. So, but yeah, we might have members who are, you know, in their day-to-day. We ask them to proactively be in these areas or the evenings, make sure they're just driving around some of the areas. Not any different than we treat any other crime in the city that's going on, is that we try and move our resources to where the needs generally seem to be, so we have people available.
The 2 September fires were also in the same neighborhoods as well, just to clarify on that?
We'll get you that information as to the addresses, yeah.
And are those also being investigated as the same series as arsons? Because we only took the 6 with police earlier.
Yep, they're all being investigated. Anything that, you know, that warrants our investigators to go out is investigated the same way each and every time. Yeah.
How large is the city's arson investigation teams on both police and fire and rescue side? How many members?
Yeah, so we have a total of 12 people who are identified as fire investigators, and they work on a rotating basis, so not all available at one time, but we have 12. Yeah.
We have up to 6 detectives who are trained, work and train alongside our fire investigators, but are specially trained in this type of investigation.
Chief, if I may, with regards to the meeting with the builders tomorrow for the conference,
Yep.
Is this an annual thing, or is this something specific to?
No, this is in relation to the recent incidents. Obviously, you know, it's of great concern to them, and rightly so. And you know, we want to work. We will all have representatives at that meeting tomorrow to kind of share information and best practices as to what we can all do for one another.
This is one for the mayor. Are you with the push to build infill, and it appears to be the second time that infill and multiplex homes are being targeted. Do you have any concerns that this could lead to people not wanting to build in Edmonton, these places?
Again, I wouldn't want to speculate at this point until we have our folks complete their investigations to find out what's happening, who's causing it, and then from there being able to respond. But I think at this point, Edmonton is still a great place to build homes. We know that it's important to be building housing in the city of Edmonton here, as we are seeing still a large population growth. So I know many people are still very eager to be part of that, but also we want to make sure that this specific issue is investigated appropriately and then responded to appropriately.
There's a lot of there's a lot of infill being constructed right now. I'm just wondering if there's any sort of estimate on just how many properties might, I guess, potentially be at risk from these activities.
So again, I wouldn't go as far to extrapolate that all infill or housing under construction is at risk. I think in terms of the amount of permits that have been issued for infill, we're looking at about 4,000 housing units. Don't exactly have the precise development permit or the building permit, but we can get you those numbers.
Do the neighborhoods that have had the fires have more infill than other neighborhoods being built right now?
In general, the central neighborhoods of Edmonton are experiencing more infill than, say, the outer ones. In terms of Belgravia, they are also seeing an increased number of infills.
Have construction materials been a factor in any of the fire responses? I've heard over the years that the move to more composite materials has accelerated how fires can worsen.
Yeah, and I would say it's not, specific to these buildings or the type of development, but what we refer to in the fire industry is lightweight construction. So over the last couple of decades, the building materials used are, kind of lighter in construction, quicker to fail. That is a fact. The mass of timber has lessened, and the composite materials kind of used now and things have changed the ways. The speed of fires and the rate of to collapse. Yes.
Does that risk lessen after the homes are built? Is it just because they're all laid bare right now, not finished?
I think in their unfinished state they're at the most vulnerable. But overall, yeah, lightweight construction is a greater challenge for the fire industry than it used to be when I started many decades ago. Yeah. So.
Were all of these houses, or these buildings, were they all in lockup conditions, so they were locked up and secured that way?
I don't have that information. I'm not sure.
Okay, and then for the city, the 4,000 units that you mentioned, is that permits that are out or things that are under construction now?
It's permits that are out representing the amount of units, not necessarily the individual permits itself. As I mentioned, I'll get that information out in terms of the amount of building permits for 2025 and those under construction right now.
Okay, so it's 4,000, but there could be a lot more doors.
No, in reverse. That 4,000 represents about the amount of doors versus the amount of buildings.
I know you maybe can't say all of them definitely all started this way, but can you tell us anything about any of them? Like maybe like the one last week, this one was started in the basement with such and such material or anything like that, just to give us an idea of like how some of these are starting?
I would say no. And I don't mean to be evasive. This is not the time and a place for speculation. I know you want more information, and we'll give you it when we have it. But there's a process to the investigation, and once that's concluded, we can provide that for you.
Are you observing accelerants in all of these incidents?
I would say we would need to look at the investigations to determine that. I don't know at this stage, whether that's the case.
Just in terms of manpower, you spoke a little bit about the arson units. Would there be, because of the seriousness of this, flexing more people in terms of police or any manpower in terms of that, or no?
Yeah, definitely. So, as this kind of progresses, we'll continue to move resources where we see needed in order to support the investigation.
Have you done that already? Have you added more?
I'd have to talk to the investigative team to see where they're at with it right now, so I don't have that answer.
I'm pretty sure I know the answer to this one already, but is there any paraphernalia being found on sites, or is there any suspicion that drugs could be a factor in this?
Not that I'm aware of.
No.
Okay, thank you so much everyone for coming.